So, welcome. I'm Laura Palabra. I run a company called No More Ifs or Buts, and I work with business owners, senior managers, entrepreneurs, and people who are interested in having a more successful life. So I help people identify and achieve their goals and run a monthly online workshop where we tackle different topics to help you on your journey to success, whether as an individual or as a business person. So this month we're talking about stress. So over the next half an hour, I'm going to give you some stress warning signs to watch out for in you and for other people you either live with or work with. We're also going to discuss why stress can be good for you. And I'm also going to share with you my 10-point plan on how to be successful without dealing with the downsides of stress. So we're going to focus more on work-related stress today, but many of the principles apply for other parts of your life as well. But get in contact with me if you'd like to talk about anything a bit more specific that isn't work-focused. But first, you probably want to know a little bit about me and why you should listen to me, because I would. So I was an award-winning board director of a successful marketing agency. I was a published author. I started a property portfolio, trekked the Inca Trail, climbed mountains, travelled the world, conquered a fear of heights by jumping out planes repeatedly, and earned a very decent salary, all whilst in my 20s. So the marketing sector was pretty competitive, and post-recession it was a challenging time, but I had a passion and a plan. So when I achieved what I wanted to do in that part of my career in my 30s, I've now set up No More Ifs or Buts to share my skills and my experience with others, my strategies, my methods, my approaches, so you can also achieve your goals. So my fundamental belief is that success doesn't have to be stressful. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that everyone experiences stress. Some use it to succeed, and some people use it as an excuse when they fail. So I recently had a client that came to me, and she basically self-diagnosed herself at a breaking point when she was at work. She got into the office early, was busy kind of getting through emails, and as people started to arrive, it got busier and louder in the office, and the phone started to ring, and more emails started to fly in, and a couple of people came to her desk and started asking questions, and then the fire alarm went off. It was a drill, but it happens every 6 months or so, and her reaction was to burst into tears and run into the toilets. So my client had been trying to keep on top of her workload. She'd been trying to go in early, get through the emails while other people weren't there, but she hadn't expected the fire drill to go off, and so having to leave the building and do a roll call, it threw her. She didn't have the time for this. How dare they? What makes her, why do they not understand that actually she has loads of things to do right now? And she felt like she was being punished for it. And so we've worked together, and actually what she now realises is that there's, you can't help fire drills. You can't help those unexpected things that happen in your life. But actually what you need to do is take every moment step by step and breathe. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is how taking 15 seconds can make a massive difference. So she isn't alone. Almost half of Britons consider themselves stressed. So you're definitely not alone. About 27% of those people consider themselves close to breaking point, and that's 1 in 10 people feeling close to breaking point in this country. You're also 27% more likely to have a heart attack if you suffer severe stress. And did you know that 42% of days lost in the UK in businesses is stress related? So as a company, it's a significant amount of time and money. The financial cost of the UK has been estimated at about 60 billion, or about £1,000 per person. Woman, child, man. And that's why I work with businesses to offer career coaching as a company benefit to reduce this number right down. So you might look at people we work with, your friends or family, and think, how do they do it? They seem so in control, yet they always sound like they've got a world of things to think about. And you're looking at them thinking, God, I've only got half the amount of things to think about, and I'm feeling out of control. And so, they're experiencing stress too. As I said, everyone deals with stress differently. Some people get a buzz from the pressure that other people then loathe. So stress makes some people succeed quicker, and some people let stress stop them achieving what they want to do. So you have the ability to change the way that you relate to stress. You're probably listening to this because you feel stressed. So let's work together to make sure you don't feel like your stress is getting out of control. And that's what stress makes us feel, out of control. It can make us feel overwhelmed and like you're juggling 100 things, and at any second they're all going to fall down. So stress can come from your home life, from relationships, but very often it comes from work. And I've been in your position before. I've had a long old relationship with stress, and I now let it push me to do more. I thrive on it, and you can too. I'm definitely not special. So I've had the unexplained rashes, I've had the dull headaches, which I don't think were always to do with the wine, and I've had high blood pressure, and most of all, I've had many a sleepless night. And these are just a few of the things that other people experience. Everyone is different, and everyone has their own mini concoction of symptoms. So in the final year university, I had this rash on my arms and legs, and it didn't hurt, it just didn't look very attractive. And it was just a bit odd. So I went to go and see the doctor, and they gave me some allergy tests, and nothing came back. And I tried various creams and things, and again, nothing changed. And it was only when a friend of mine came back from a weekend, for a week away, and said how he'd had a similar rash before, and it was stress. And then it all clicked into place. I felt fine. I didn't feel stressed, but actually I was doing my dissertation. I was working 40 hours a week. I was living in a very loud student house. And that was it. I was stressed. And so within 2 days, it had gone. When I acknowledged that I had quite a lot on my plate, and I realised that I hadn't been taking care of myself properly, not eating enough, drinking too much, not moving from my chair, I knew these things were things I could change. So, and over the years, I've learnt to manage it. It's given me a high capacity for work, and being in more control has meant that I've been made better decisions, which, in turn makes yourself more money and makes yourself more happy. So people think that stress goes hand in hand with success in business. The more senior you get, the more stressful your life is. That's why you get paid the big bucks. But it doesn't work like that. You progress in your career because of your skills and experience, and and that should make your life easier and more efficient. The more senior you get, you've got a back catalogue of tried and tested approaches to the situation. But it can feel really overwhelming. It can feel like when you've got your own business or reached a breaking point in your career where all you're wishing for is that you got back to the office junior and making cups of tea for everyone else all day long, back to the good old stress-free days. So when you've recognised that you're suffering negative effects from stress, it's time to do something about it and retain control and achieve your goals. Everybody's body reacts differently, and you can't necessarily change how your body reacts to stress. It's a clever thing, your body, and it gives you these little signs to say that you're stressed, and just to be aware and stay in control. It's hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, that give you this rush, and some people love the rush and some people are scared of it. So have a think of these questions. How do you know when you're stressed? Do you see something different? Do you feel your emotions change? Do you do strange things when you don't do, that you don't do at any other point? Where do you feel stress in your body? Do you get tense shoulders? Do you get your hands get tense? And how do you behave when you're feeling stressed out? Do you snap at people close to you? Do you spend ages trying to make the easiest decisions, like what to have for lunch? Do you find yourself zoning out in the middle of a conversation? And how do you react to stress? If you've ever noticed yourself doing these things and have realised you may well be stressed, does it scare you? Do you carry on doing what you're doing, or do you change your plan? And how do you currently cope with stress? You're here because you want to learn more, but do you have any techniques that you're using already? Message in, let us know. Everyone has different approaches, and I won't have time to cover them all here. And you might have heard of fight or flight. When the stress kicks in and the hormones get released, do you fight and get spurred on, or do you try to run away the other direction, or do you just freeze, unable to move? And if you find yourself putting the head in the sand, trying to ignore the hundreds of things you have to do, this is you in fight mode. A Which survey found that divorce is the most stressful life event, with 78% of people finding it stressful, followed by selling or buying a house at about 70%. And just over half of people found having a child stressful. And getting married was 40% of people. So stress comes in different places. As I said, it might come at home, something like divorce or a change of circumstance, in relationships and at work. And you can deal with some of these. Maybe you can deal more with some rather than others. Sometimes I know that I deal well with stress at work, but I'm more likely to get stressed about things in my home life, and that those things play on my mind more. So I can deal with the day where I've got 5 meetings, 50 emails, 4 conference calls, all across different time zones, but throw in an argument with my sister or a last minute dinner party to organise, and then it pushes me too far. But there are signs, there are physical and mental things to make you realise you need to address the situation before you reach breaking point. So that breaking point could be crying in the toilets in your office, having some kind of physical reaction like a heart attack. It could be an emotional reaction where you consider taking your own life. And these things don't come out of nowhere. There are signs, and we need to address these signs. You need to get to know your body, and we need to know how we react to stress. I know for me, it's not sleeping. It's slipping out of routines. It's not being in control that makes my head spin. I'm not about to harp on to you about some mumbo jumbo stuff. I'm about to suggest you shave your head and go and live on an island, although I'm sure that's lovely. I'm talking about just knowing what is normal in your world and what isn't, and acknowledging that actually if you follow my top 10 point plan, you'll be able to improve your relationship with stress and therefore your opportunity for success. So, okay, how many of you have been suffering some of these issues, but how bad is it? Is it okay one day and not the next? Well, that's okay. Everyone has bad days. If you experience things for, say 4, 5, 6, 7, if the days start to add up, that's when you need to start taking notice. So how many of these sound familiar? Do you regret being angry or short-tempered with others? Are you feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to turn? Do you find yourself crying or withdrawing a lot? Do you feel that you end up eating too much or too little compared to normal? And do you feel like you've lost control of your life? So if you have a look at this list, and if you think 4 of these things or more ring bells, then you're probably experiencing high levels of stress, and we need to work out how to deal with this. So people say stress is a bad thing. They say, God, how stressful. You must be really stressed. Don't be so stressy. I want to dispel the myth. I want you to learn to love stress. It isn't going to happen straight away, but I want to set you on that path. Okay, so how do we cope with it? How do we make it our friend? Well, workload is the number one cause of work-related stress in a labour force survey. And planning is really important. As I said before, a lot of feeling stress is feeling out of control. And that can happen when there's a lot going on and it feels like there's too much for you to do with too little time. So we have a plan, the No More Ifs or Buts plan. So it's an easy to remember checklist for you to think about when you're looking at things to do at work, but also in your home kind of admin as well. So P is for preventing important things from becoming urgent by spending time on them now before they become time sensitive. Limit the amount of time you spend on doing things that are unimportant but potentially urgent. They're unlikely to offer you the satisfaction of achieving your goals. And assess whether whether any work being given to you will actually help you achieve your goals. Are you just doing something for somebody else? And no, just say no. Don't take on work when you can't deliver your current workload. So plan. By taking an organised and systematical approach to our time, we can massively reduce the impact stress can have on us. So planning is just part of it and can help with your time management and control. So if you try the plan and maybe it helps a little bit, but not enough, or you don't find it helps at all, try following the 10-point plan that I'm about to take you through. So it's a slightly more holistic approach, rather than just focusing on action planning and your things to do list. As with anything where you're changing your perceptions, emotions and reactions to a situation, don't expect it to change overnight. This is going to take time, not even a week or so. We're talking a good few months to see a proper improvement. So let's go through my 10-point plan to being successful without dealing with the downsides of stress. So first of all, delving deep. So you need to take a step back and identify what things you enjoy in life and what you like to spend more time doing. What are your life goals? Sounds big for just trying to solve a bit of a headache or a few sleepless nights, but do you really know what your goal is? If you're in your own business, do you know what you want from the business? We need to know about what we are aiming for to help us establish whether or not we should be caring about, and what is it worth stressing about and what isn't it worth stressing about. And ask yourself these questions. What are the 3 biggest changes that you want to make in your life or career over the next 5 years? And what 3 goals do you want to achieve within the next 3 months? If you had an extra hour a day, what would you do with it? And what would you try now if you knew you couldn't fail? And lastly, what would make you die happy? What is it that you can do that actually you can feel really satisfied in life having achieved? Next step is organising your office, your home, mind, organising everything. So declutter your life, whether it's your physical desk or your home. If you have distractions around you, it's really easy to procrastinate. So again, it's about being in control. Mess can feel out of control, so own it, deal with it, and you'll be able to deal with a whole lot more. So I have a 1-page of emails in my inbox policy. So if I have to scroll, I've got too many, and I treat my inbox as my things to do list. So by keeping on top of that and organising my emails and documents, I know I can really focus. Yeah, there are days when it gets silly, but by the little bit of extra time before I finish for the day sorting out those emails, I'm more organised and know fully what I'm dealing with each day. So keep your desktop tidy, keep your files straight, put them straight away. Messy desktop or downloads folder can add to the feeling of lack of control, so not knowing where things are. If you're like me and are analytical, then keeping things simple and organised goes a long way. And really simply, just write things down. Take the stress out of trying to remember things. I love Evernote. I've harped on about it before, but it's good for me to jot notes down and organise them into notebooks and to gather all the information I find on the internet into relevant notebooks without having to remember a list of URLs. So number 3, no is not negative. Alluded to earlier when we were talking about plan. If things land on your plate that you won't help you or your business goals, you can say no. You don't have to agree on everything. Why should you? And by saying no, you're keeping control of your life. So saying no to that new project might seem ludicrous because you need the money, but actually is the project that's slightly out of your normal comfort zone worth it? So if you present your argument in a diplomatic yet direct way, your boss or client, etc., will like to be less defensive, and more open to hear about what you have to say. So Greg McKeown illustrates this point perfectly in his book Essentialism. So when your boss asks you to tackle a new project, McKeown recommends asking which of your other assignments can be done, can be put to the side so you'll have enough time to devote the task. So it's a very subtle way of saying, I can't do everything at the same level. What would you like me to focus on? And say no if you don't feel qualified to do a good job. Maybe it's taking a challenge too far for you and you don't feel comfortable. And whether or not somebody's telling you, yes, you'll be fine, if you really don't feel comfortable doing it, don't let yourself get in that situation. And treasure your time. So if you caught my session on time management, you might remember this, but I believe that good time management is integral to succeeding without stress. So we touched on it earlier, but here's another idea. Each night before you go to bed, write down the top 5 things that you have to do tomorrow. Make 3 to 4 of them work related, if applicable, and 1 or 2 that relate to your personal life. So make sure the first thing you do in the morning is complete at least 2 of these tasks. So each time you find yourself not sure what to do next, is this all overwhelming and you don't know where to start, or you kind of catch yourself spending a bit too much time on Facebook or on Twitter, go back to the list you wrote the night before and make sure you aim to complete another task. And try to complete all 5 tasks before the end of the day so that you can write 5 new things in the evening before the next day. Justify everything. That's the 5th step. So make sure you really justify to yourself. Part of that saying no, part of that is planning and understanding your goals, and really justify to yourself, why am I doing something? Do I really do need to do this to achieve those kind of dreams and goals that you discovered in the first stage? If you can't justify it to yourself, how on earth you can justify to somebody else that you're spending your time in a certain way? And just always think about, why would I do something? Is it worth it? Is it not? Use the ability to say no if you need to, but make sure you're keeping on track. Understanding unhelpful thoughts. So as we heard, we saw in the quote from William James earlier, the ability to choose one thought over another is our greatest weapon against stress. So the reason that people react differently to the same situations, they interpret the information differently. So if you find there's a situation that keeps coming up, for example, your boss causing you to see red, or someone close to you making you get upset, try using these step-by-step processes to analyse why you're thinking something and looking at how you change your reaction. So by really thinking about what you think of something and why you react in a certain way, you can then manipulate this. So most of the time when you break down your reaction away from the situation, your calmer head can see that the unhelpful thoughts, and you can see the reasons why you might react to something is unhelpful. So by reviewing and analysing things when you're calm and writing it down, it will help cement a new way of looking at a situation. And a simple turnaround in the way we talk to ourselves and others can also have a big difference in the amount of pressure and therefore stress we may be putting on us or other people. So a couple of examples, you're putting more stress on yourself by saying, I've got to get this done, I shouldn't ask for help. And actually what you should be saying is, I will do as much as I can in the allowed time, or even, everyone asks for help sometimes and I'd happily help somebody else. And we always put this pressure on ourselves to do things when we know full well that we'd actually be very sympathetic if other people were in the same situation. And saying something like, this is really important. Well, okay, fine. Is it really important? In 5 years' time, is this still going to have been really important? Is it going to have mattered? Or can we really look at the actual small elements of that problem first and actually say, do you know what, by taking some of the smaller elements of a situation out, actually that might be enough to make the bigger issue go away. Sleeping off stress, that is the 7th point. So sleep is really important. It's easy to work into the night to get through things, but at night it's also the time when your body needs to recharge. So you need to use the night to recharge. We've all heard what we're supposed to sleep for 8 hours a night. Realistically, no one does that. I know not the majority, as the average amount of people, the average amount of sleep an adult gets is, I think, 6.6 hours per night. So nobody's getting this 8 hours. 61% of us wake up feeling unrefreshed and not rested, and that's the only time you get to rest properly during the day or through the night. So you need to really make sure it counts. So employers also, you need to watch out. 2/3 of adults have missed work due to sleep-related difficulties and haven't told the boss the actual real reason. So in my house, we have a no screens in bed rule. So the only exception is putting an alarm on, but even that's only when we forget to do it before we get into bed. There'll always be an email, a post on Facebook, a tweet, or something that sparks your brain off just before you're about to try to sleep. So don't risk it. And there's nothing that's going to spark your brain off, frankly. Why are you looking at it? Just put it away and try to sleep. So I used to fly a lot for my job, and it'd be really tempting to have a nap when I landed. Aside from not helping get your body into the right time zone, it doesn't help your body when you are ready to sleep. So stress makes people sleep more. It also makes some people sleep less. So some people will worry and stay awake, and some people will try and block it all out and sleep. So if you feel tired, get up from your seat, take a walk around, have a glass or bottle of water, and think about the next thing you're going to do, crossing off that list you wrote last night. And I'm a big believer in the power of water. It might taste boring, but I'm telling you, when you get into the habit of drinking it, you don't think about that. You just become acutely aware of when you've not drunk enough. So keeping hydrated throughout the day, and don't drink caffeinated drinks. So tea and coffee taste just as good. Decaf, you're going to do the rest of the 10-point plan right, you won't need caffeine to keep you awake. And if you're not having to have it for taste or staying awake, then obviously there's no real point. So when we were covering off time management earlier, I mentioned writing down your top 5 things to do the next day before you went to bed. And this also works with writing all the things that are on your mind before you go to bed. It doesn't need to be quite diary-like, but it can be a simple list of bullet points. So you can let them sit on the paper overnight, but you've written them down, so there's no chance about forgetting them. The 8th one is talking things through. So have you ever heard a problem shared is a problem halved? Well, I totally believe this is true. By talking things through with other people, you get new opinions and a sounding board, and you have a confidant. So tell people if you need time to yourself. Sometimes it's just a good idea to have an evening on your own, cinema, reading a book, just to refocus. And take care not to take your stress out on other people, particularly people you love. They're there to help you, and they won't be able to help you if you're fighting against them. And just talk to people and tell them how you're feeling. It could be someone at work, a friend, a family member, a mentor if you have one, or if you suspect you're really struggling and you are experiencing a lot of the symptoms we've been through, then maybe consider talking to a coach or a counsellor. So breathe and believe, that's point 9. So when I used to run an old events agency, I used to constantly be saying to my team of event planners, step back. It's so easy to get caught up in all the things that are going on and the never-ending list, especially in a world of events. But perspective and a small amount of space helps massively. So step back for 15 seconds, and it's something I get them to do, just whether or not it be daily, whether or not they have to do it multiple times a day, or just weekly, every so often, just to spend 15 seconds not doing anything. It's not that long, but it's normally enough when you're not doing anything else and when you've got your eyes closed and you're breathing deeply to reset your body. So for the first 5 to 10 seconds, you just breathe. And for the final 5 seconds or so, tell yourself you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Whatever you've got to do, you can do it. So let's try it now. 15 seconds. So there you go. It does feel like a long time when it's silent, doesn't it? Eat and exercise. It's the final point on our 10-point plan. So take breaks, exercise, eat well. Stress can make us really feel tired, and we're more likely to get ill if we don't look after ourselves. So I'm a big fan of a massage, a good book, a short run. I'd be a big fan of a long run, but I'm not very good at it yet. So to recap, don't just be. delve deep, organise yourself, your office. No is not negative. Remember, you can say no to people. Treasure your time. Make sure you really, really focus on good time management skills. Justify everything you do to whether or not it actually achieves your goals in life or in your company. Understand unhelpful thoughts. So really understand why you react to certain things in a certain way. Sleep off stress. Try and get a good night's sleep. Don't put pressure on yourself to have 8 hours sleep, but do simple changes in your day that can help you sleep a little bit better. Talk things through. It's massively important. Make sure that you don't try and deal with things on your own. And the final couple of points: breathe and believe. You can do it, and give yourself time every so often just to refocus. And eat well and exercise. Everybody says, 30 minutes a day. You don't have to fit in 30 minutes a day. If you can't do that, just a 5-10 minute wander around a park will be enough to clear your mind for that little bit and get you back. And when you've got a bit more time, you can put a bit more focus onto exercising well. So it's the no more ifs or buts approach. Don't just be. So it's how I've achieved what I've achieved in my career so far, and it's about what makes me successful, just not stressed. And remember, underpinning all of this is don't give yourself a hard time. So hopefully you've picked up a few tips. Something has inspired you to think a little bit differently, or at least given you something to pass on to someone else that you think might need some support at the moment. So if you're interested in working with me, take control of your life and achieve your goals, or you believe it's something that would be really useful for your team, then get in contact. I run career coaching sessions in businesses. So coaching sessions are generally one-to-one, and most people achieve what they want within about 6 sessions. So they'll be totally tailored to you and your goals, and they're for people who want to be better and be successful. So in these sessions on Facebook every month, we tackle a different subject, as I said, and if you've got any special requests or you'd like me to run an interactive workshop for you or your team, again, just get in contact. And now it's time for a short story before we finish. So the carpenter I hired to help me restore an old farmhouse had just finished a rough first day on his job. So a flat tyre made him lose an hour of work, his electric saw quit, and now his ancient pickup truck refused to start. So when I drove him home, he sat in stony silence, and on arriving at his house, he invited me in to meet the family. So as we walked towards the front door, he paused briefly at a small tree, touching the tips of the branches with both hands. And after opening the door, he underwent an amazing transformation. His face was wreathed in smiles, and he hugged his 2 small children, then gave his wife a kiss. Afterwards, he walked me back to my car, and we passed the tree, and my curiosity got the better of me, and I asked him what it was that I'd seen him do earlier. He said, that's my worry tree, he replied. I know I can't help having worries on the job, but one thing's for sure, worries don't belong in the house with my wife and children. So I just hang them up on the tree every night when I come home. Then in the morning, I pick them up again. He says, the funny thing is, he smiled, when I come out in the morning to pick them up, there aren't nearly as many things as I remember hanging on the tree the night before. So whilst you have a little think about that, I've had a couple of questions come through. So the question is, I've heard about the word anxiety. What does that mean? So anxiety is basically a disorder that can happen when you get yourself really, really stressed. So if you don't deal with the symptoms of stress right at the very beginning when you start to notice them, they can compound and they can get worse and worse. And if you don't address these issues, that's when it becomes a mental health issue and you risk actually putting yourself in quite a lot of serious harm. So it's really, really important to stave off things like anxiety by really, really focusing on managing your stress early on. If you think that you are really, really struggling, and those points I mentioned earlier, you saying I tick all of these boxes, make sure you go and talk to someone. Talk to a coach or a counsellor, talk to a friend, talk to somebody who you feel comfortable talking to, and then you'll be able to then take the right path. Another question, think I might be suffering with more than stress. Am I depressed? Not a simple yes or no answer, I'm afraid. I don't know. Feel free to get in contact and we can talk through things and see where your head is at. What I would say is if you feel like everything's getting on top of you, again, just talk to people, try some of the points in the plan, see if actually you can go back to the beginning point and say, what is it I'm trying to achieve? What is it actually my goal is? And whether or not it's something that I really can focus on. If you feel like actually you're going through all of these elements and they aren't having any impact, as I said, go and talk to somebody because there are people that can give you some proper advice in terms of potential depression or anxiety coming through. So that's our half an hour or so, and clearly a whistle-stop tour. There are so many other things to consider and techniques to try, but hopefully a good starting point. So if you register on the website in the next week, I'm going to be sending out a copy of my Success Doesn't Have to Be Stressful guide with all of these tips, plus some more in there as well. And until next time, guys, remember, no more ifs or buts. Thank you.